to have gone through everything we want to cover before that. I'm Judy Joslin. I'm from the 62 RHLI Army Cadet Corps in Hamilton. My captain was to be here today with me, but unfortunately had a family situation that she had to take care of, so was unable to come. So I will do my best to cover this from both the support committee chairperson as well as the CO. And there are a couple of people in uniform in here, so if there are those types of questions, I may be looking for some help in answering those kinds of questions, and would appreciate your help if you can. So in this workshop, I'm referring to some information that is available in a document that I don't know if you have, and if you don't, you might want to get a copy. It's called the Army Cadet Reference Book, and it's kind of the guidelines for support committees and the League. And that is available through the League office, so if you don't have a copy, I'm certain that if you get a hold of one of the girls in the office, they'd be happy to send you a copy. Last year they had them for me to hand out. They didn't this year, so you can obtain a copy through the League office. Okay, need a clicker in here. To me, this kind of represents what the support committee is about. It's about a team working together for a common goal. Not just the support committee, but with the CO and the Cadet Corps as well. So that's what that picture kind of represented to me. So I thought we would start with talking about the responsibilities of the support committee chairperson. Support committee, sponsoring committee, parents committee, there are different ways in which this group of people are referred to. But we are talking about the group that looks after the funds, the fundraising, supporting the Cadet Corps from a civilian point of view. The chairperson is responsible for ensuring that there is communication between the committee and the Cadet Corps. This individual should meet with the commanding officer of the Corps on a regular basis. It's important that the commanding officer be kept up to date on anything that has to do with the League. And it's also important for the commanding officer to keep touch with you on financial situations and things like that. It's about once a month that I sit down with my commanding officer, and we try not to do it on parade nights. That night is really busy for her, and so if we can arrange to do this outside of that, we think we have a more productive conversation when she's not distracted. The chair's responsibilities don't end there with just communicating with the CO. We have responsibilities to the cadets, to the community, to the Canadian Forces, as well as the League. And so some of those are to the cadets to ensure that they have somewhere to meet. So to provide a suitable accommodation for them, to provide funding that the Corps requires to meet its needs that are not provided by the Department of National Defence or other sources. If in some cases to help with recruiting. There's lots of different ways in which the support committee can help with recruitment drives. Does anyone in this room have any success stories that they'd like to share about recruitment ideas they've had? Yes?
As parents, we go out with our cadets on tag days. I shared this last year. And I know for me, when I'm with cadets tagging, I'm looking for prospective cadets. I have recruiting brochures, I have information, and I pull those families aside, and I talk to them, and I find that that's really
excellent.
Effective ways parents that we can chaperone our cadets.
Very good. Anyone else have any success stories or ideas that they have used? Okay. Well, I listened to Colonel Armstrong this morning, and he was talking about how in the central region, recruiting seems to be okay. It's the retention side that we're still doing a little bit of struggle with. Another responsibility to the cadets is to be available for public events. So things like the annual review, anything that's going on in the community that the Cadet Corps is involved with, it's a good opportunity for the support committee, a representative or representatives from that committee could be a part of that event as well. To build good working relationships with the other cores and support committees in your area. Tagging is an example of where you could be coordinating with other cadet corps locations. I don't know if any of you have any issues with that, but I know in Hamilton we've got a lot of stores that say store policy says we can't tag there. So at least if you can liaison with the other support committees, you maybe can come up with other ideas that maybe you didn't think of. And we found that's really helpful. We can provide trophies and other special awards to recognize good things that the cadets have done. And if the Corps has a band, to support them as well. So that's to the Corps, or to the cadets. Now to the community. As you had mentioned, we can explain the benefits and outcomes of the programs to the parents in the community, building interest and understanding of what the Cadet Corps is all about, publicizing the Corps' events through the media, organizing and helping carry out projects in the community. One of the community events that our Corps just participated in was in Hamilton. We have the Around the Bay Road Race. And our Cadet Corps looked after manning the food station that all the runners came through at the end of the race. So probably anywhere from 10 to 11,000 people saw our kids volunteering their time at a community event in full uniform. And the kids got a really good reaction from those runners coming through, thanking them for volunteering. So it was just a good opportunity for the kids to do some volunteering and give back to the community, and for the community to actually see us out there helping. To the Canadian Forces, we can help recommend the formation and disbandment of cadet corps, suggest suitable individuals in the community to the CO for consideration as civilian instructor or future officers, and to take care and the custody of equipment provided by the committee. So any of the equipment that through the support committee has been provided to the Cadet Corps, it's important to keep an up-to-date list of that inventory, because through the financial process at the end of each year, we are required to present that to the League with your financial statement. So it's a good idea to try and keep that up through the year. If you supply any new equipment to the Cadet Corps, make sure that gets added to your inventory list. Okay. And to the League, the committee will select a chairperson, and this is the individual that communicates with the commanding officer. They will screen new volunteers when a vacancy arises on their committee. We all know how hard it is to find volunteers who have time to help. So it's always a good idea if you can be on the lookout. Anytime you come in contact with the parents, somebody that you think might, either from a civilian side or from an officer CI perspective, that you think might be a good candidate, and then maybe talk it over with the CO. Okay. We're also responsible for maintaining the bank account and all financial records and reporting. And if possible, try and delegate some of these responsibilities to others that are on your committee. I think the biggest thing that helps make this whole relationship work is communication. Communication from the chair and the CO, communication just all ways around, including the League, all those types of people. Communication is the way to help make it successful. Okay. Any questions so far? A lot of responsibilities. Okay. Well, that financial one, I just thought I'd touch on that just a little bit more. It's a good idea at the beginning of each year, or maybe at the end of the current training year, to sit down with the CO and talk about a financial plan for the year to come. Then you can get information from the CO on what types of training they're looking at doing, what kind of funds are they going to need to do that, and then that gives the support committee an opportunity to start putting a plan in place on how they're going to meet those financial goals for the Corps as well. The support committee is responsible for managing the Corps funds. The commanding officer must be kept up to date on the financial situation at all times. That's just that communication. If you exceeded your fundraising goal that you were hoping for, or you didn't quite meet it, it's important that they know those situations so that they can maybe adjust their training if necessary. These two, they're kind of common sense things, but write checks only if there's funds in the bank, and no blank or pre-signed checks. Transparency is a really important thing. Important that the recording and reporting of the funds, that is done on a timely basis, and especially the no blank or pre-signed checks. You want to be sure that what you have thought was a budget for something is what you're actually spending, so you know kind of where you are financially. Okay. Department of National Defense covers 10 days of training each year, so it's a good idea to use those up first before you then go ahead and pay for training through the support committee. And again, that's something you can talk to the CO about and plan with. I find that my CO has great insight into budgeting for events. Because she's been in the Cadet Corps for so long, when we start to plan, whether it's a small training weekend or a large trip, she can really pinpoint pretty close kind of where we need to be for that trip. So it's an invaluable resource from the financial side of it. So that's just another piece to think about. Okay. Okay, so supporting the Corps. We will look after coordinating and running fundraising initiatives to raise the funds that are required for the Corps. Provide equipment and supplies not funded by other sources. Obtaining community donations for funds and supplies. We have been lucky enough that there are some individuals in our community that have been able to provide us with some donations when we came to some of our larger trips. Didn't want any recognition for it, just heard about the program and thought so much of it that they decided that they would like to help support what was going on. So we were very lucky. We've even done things of, like, we call it a begging letter. Sent it out kind of as a cold letter to all types of different organizations, as well as the stores and things like that, just asking if they could possibly support us. And we were surprised at what we got back. The Hamilton Tiger Cats donated tickets that we could use in a raffle or something like that. Some of the grocery stores would provide us with gift cards to help with food on unsupported training weekends. And you never know where there's a little pocket of money that you might be able to take advantage of. So some things like that sometimes work as well. We also screen parents or community volunteers to help with fundraising initiatives and activities. Anyone that comes in contact with the cadets or volunteers has to be screened through the league. So we have to initiate that process when somebody new is coming in. Okay. Any questions so far? You're a very quiet group. I think I was at this point at 45 minutes last one. Communication really is really important. I know I've already mentioned that. The communication between the commanding officer and the chairperson. Then it also comes back to communication from the league back to the Corps. The Army Cadet League is organized in a tri-level basis, so local, provincial, and national. And we can bring information back to our cadet corps as well as the other way of flow of information. Your league liaison officer is another good source of information. Whenever we have questions as support committees, that's our first resource person to help us with getting information as well. So use that individual for guidance and support. This is an example of the Army League structure. So at the top we have our cadets, the CIC officers, and civilian instructors. So that's kind of the D&D side of the Cadet Corps. And working in conjunction with them, this really isn't a true organization chart, okay, is the support committee. Also supporting them is our local sponsor, the RHLI Veterans Association, and our affiliate unit, which is the RHLI Regiment. Along with that is the Parents Committee, and then our pool of screen volunteers. So that's kind of what our structure looks like, to put it loosely.
I see you've got Parents Committee separate from Support Committee.
It's the same one, actually, sorry. I didn't mean for it to be different.
This is lucky.
No, we just have one. Right. It was kind of more to show kind of the fact that we're the financial support and special projects and things like that. But we also have, in conjunction with our Parents Committee, a pool of screen volunteers that aren't necessarily a part of those responsibilities. They're help with specialty trainings and things like that. Basically, that's what they are there to help with events if we require them, but they do help kind of on the training side as well, because they've got specialty skills and things that they bring in. Okay. So this is what the members of my support committee. I find that when people have a job, they have a focus, and that helps them to meet the requirements that we need of them. So for example, Ruth, my tagging coordinator, she knows that twice a year, and she has those dates fairly far in advance, she needs to coordinate those 2 tagging weekends for us. And so months ahead, she's already contacting the stores to try and find us locations and making those contacts in the community. I'm finding, as she's mentioned, more and more of the stores are looking for that proof of insurance. They want to see written requests as opposed to just telephone calls. So there's a lot more work involved when you have to start actually going and visiting the stores and meeting with managers and things like that. So that takes a fair amount of time, and she dedicates herself to doing that for us. Sometimes you can get that permission if you ask in the fall. You might be able to get your spring tagging booked as well, but not always. So anyways, Ruth does a great job at that. And then I have 2 other ladies who coordinate fundraising activities. So separate from the tagging, so things like we're doing a water bottle fundraiser right now, poinsettias, all different sorts of fundraising ideas. And they go out and they search out what's new out there for us and see if they can find something that maybe somebody else hasn't really thought of yet. So that was where the water bottle fundraiser came from. It's a company called Pure Hydration, and they're like a top-of-the-line water bottle. Don't sweat, keep hot and cold for 24 hours, and all this other stuff. They're really great. So anyways, one of them found this product, and so this is our current fundraiser right now. And we've got a cadet that sold 40 of them. We have to sell a minimum of 100 as a core. We have 40 kids. I think we're going to make it. So, and when you get $6 back per bottle, that's a good return. So it's important to have those people who can be creative and go out and find those ideas for you. Then I have my treasurer and the screen volunteers. And as I said, they do different things for us, and so that's our support committee.
Judy,
Yes.
you tried bingos in Hamilton?
I think our cadet corps used to have one, but because they've cut down on the number of bingos that are even in the city, there's the wait list to get one is
We
years.
found that in Mississauga. Only
Yes.
two places in Mississauga you can hold a bingo, because it's licensed establishment
Yeah,
by the city.
yeah,
And here, so,
yeah.
one has 35 charities, so they're running bingos twice a day.
Mm-hmm. Nevada Tickets is another one, and again, there's a wait list just to get a box in a convenience store
Yeah.
somewhere.
Yeah.
I also work for the school board in Hamilton, dealing with schools doing the same sort of thing, and their schools are waiting for somebody to drop off so that they can pick it up. And it's great revenue. The only problem with the bingo is getting the volunteers there to do it. So again, and as I said, we all know how hard it is to get those volunteers to begin with. That's a pretty regular commitment, and it's a big commitment. So at the moment, we do not have one, but I know that you can make really good money from them.
I think the first problem is getting into the bingo hall.
It is, absolutely. Yeah.
And if you can get in and, you tell us where you get a spot. Our Legion sponsor runs 60 bingos.
Wow.
We found out something else interesting. If we were lucky enough to get a spot in the bingo hall with the Legion, they could no longer be our sponsor. It would be a good bet.
Oh, wow.
Because they raise funds to give to us.
Yes, yes. Oh, wow.
I'll share an idea just for those who live in Toronto. I don't know if they work here. I'm from Ottawa, from Governor General Footcards. We do 50-50s at the Ottawa Senators games.
Mm.
So I don't know if your team here does that or not, please, but they will allow charities to go in. We have to supply a certain number of volunteers. Right at the beginning of the year, you get your game date set. The more volunteers you provide, the more they pay you. Very lucrative.
I have heard that the Hamilton Tiger Cats will do that, yes. Do they, the Bulldogs? Okay.
Can other people share fundraising ideas so that we can all kind of, I don't know if you have time for that.
Yes, we do, yes. As I said, we're way ahead of schedule right now.
Yeah, I agree.
We need a workshop on fundraising.
I think so,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Our corps has done a cookbook, and so we get 100, 300 slowly.
With ideas like from parents submitting and,
Every cadet gave us,
very good.
We do breakfast auction, silent auction. That one's really good.
Breakfast, now there's a different twist, as opposed to some sort of a dinner.
Where do you find your money comes from primarily? Is it the parents and relatives? We're on the, well, not with the breakfast auction. The committee comes out and has breakfast and they'll bid on stuff. Where do you have it? We're at the community hall.
Can I ask where you're from?
Castleman.
Okay.
Is that a small area? Is it a small town? Yep.
Right outside of Ottawa.
Yeah.
So they have community.
There's
Ottawa
community
doesn't, right?
spirit there.
Yes.
Where are you from?
Oh.
Yeah, and, yeah, sorry, in the white.
Which one?
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
Well, Kitchener, Waterbury.
Anyone else have any fundraising ideas?
Just a question, how many sponsors are you allowed, is the corps allowed to have?
As in, like, for us, it's the RHLI Veterans Association. Not aware of whether there is a limit. I don't think,
I don't
If you
think
can get.
Yeah, I don't think there is a limit.
I wouldn't
No?
think so.
No, I don't know.
Our corps has four,
Four.
We have quite a few as
so
well.
four
That's
separate legions sponsor our one corps.
Wow.
Here's the
We're
question.
very poor legions, so don't.
But
anything
Is
helps.
your corps eligible for a medal of excellence from each of those legions, or is it one per corps from the legion general? Does anybody know the
One per
answer?
corps. One per corps.
One.
We have 3 legions. And
Yeah.
each legion takes turn in each year.
Yeah.
So
Thank you. Do you know where that's found?
that is up, your region rep will find that through the Legion information.
one of our fundraising events that we find is successful every year. We sell poinsettias every Christmas. Ask the kids to sell 5 each at $10. Usually, most of them far exceed that, and it usually runs quite well. And because we have done it many years in a row, we're using the same supplier. They always give us a really good price on the plants. They bring them and deliver them to the armories for us, and then we have the parents come and pick them up from the armories.
Sell them door to door or?
Not necessarily door to door. Go to school, ask teachers, ask family members, friends, things like that. But they seem to be able to far exceed that 5 plants per kid.
We found luck with the frozen cookie dough, often makes.
Oh, the McMillans? That works really well. My question about that one is, what do you have facilities to keep any of it if somebody doesn't come and pick it up?
Well, the best thing about it is that it will, if it thaws out, you can refreeze it.
Okay,
So you
okay.
can thaw it and refreeze it 100 times and it's still good.
All right.
But we
wondered.
get it delivered in the morning of the parade night. The cadets come and they take it all with them.
Excellent.
Parade night.
Okay. Yes.
We do chicken sales with Orlando Poultry.
Okay, yes.
We do quite well with that one. We do it once a year.
I have heard that through the schools as well, and they're very successful with it as well. It's frozen chicken, right? And
Correct.
yeah, that's
That was
excellent.
delivered at about 5 o'clock on a Friday night. Parents support committee goes in, we pair up all the orders, and then the kids and the parents are come in around 6 o'clock, and within an hour and a half it's gone.
Excellent. I think someone else over here on this side.
Our corner does a patrol march, and that brings in support from the community. Also, this year we've started 2 new fundraising, and that is aluminum cans. So
Oh,
you
yes.
put them up, yeah. As well as Ready Chef. We're going to try Ready Chef as well.
Okay, I haven't heard of that patrol march.
Yes, a patrol march. The Corps, all the cadets get a pledge sheet, and they have about 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And what they do is they go from Friday night at 6 o'clock, march throughout the whole community. The CO has them having various exercises, in the park, small community, not small community, but down the streets, various parks in there. And they raise funds, and it goes back into the Corps.
We're being sponsored.
Yeah, and then they come back in the morning, have their breakfast, and by then they're ready to go home.
One of the corps this morning had shared they have a push-up-a-thon at the local mall. So the cadets get pledges for what they're going to do, but that also puts them out in the community so that people see them, and it's a great recruiting idea as well.
We've done week-a-thons too, it's another one where kids go and something like this going. They can stay awake all night and get sponsored for that, so.
Yes, you feed them and walk the streets. They always have like 2 or 3 officers with them. Our corps is about 40, and each child brings in at least $100. They have dinner at the Legion. They go. They stop at both Tim Hortons, various, because they're on 2 sides of at the edge of each of the town. But and they do exercises in the parks. They have tags. They do football, but it's all on the streets. And then they come in and they have their breakfast, and then they go home. And the kids love it.
Excellent.
Actually, our drill team this weekend is doing their own fundraising, and they want to buy tracksuits for when they go away on competition. So they're doing a drill-a-thon this weekend, getting sponsored as well. Each kid is, I think about $100. Yeah, they want each cadet to bring in about $100 so far. It's all night. It's all night.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
That's excellent.
I have a question. Can anybody tell me how I can get the kids to be involved? I've got, in our folder, there's certain kids that will be out for everything. Then I have the rest. show up for swim night.
20% do 80%.
Yeah. 20% of them are doing it there for everything. The other.
Anyone have any suggestions?
Our CEO
Oh.
does it like this. Our CEO.
He
You
lets
want to
them
hear
go.
what I have to
No,
say?
if they don't come and do it, he tells them they can't go on the year-end trip.
No,
Then
that's
they
not
go
it.
anyway.
They still go
That's
anyway.
not
They go
it. We have
anyway.
a team full of stuff, and where we go, we keep going, shifting from 3 different places that could ever take us throughout the whole year.
Mhm.
So everything is taken from the canteens. The ones that don't show up are dealing with bringing stuff out from the canteen and coming back. And they realize that, there's some of these people don't do it, and some of them do, and they're realizing why they do it.
Even the ones that are on duty and who are supposed to stay, they're gone. The kids just won't do it. They're just there for the special.
And communication with the CO doesn't help with that
No.
situation.
No.
That's an issue in almost every corps, I'm sure. But in our corps, it relies on the seniors to dictate to the juniors and to mentor the juniors.
The
And
juniors
it's,
are just there from way back.
well, we don't have that. I guess, well, I won't say we don't have it. It's in every corps. It's just, I guess, at what level you would have it. I mean, you have the newer ones coming in until they get used to the form.
Like,
But
if
generally,
they-
our seniors take care of that issue and say, listen, this is what's happening, this, and this. And if you want to participate in this, we have a really good senior group,
Yeah.
which takes care of that issue, so.
Like,
But they have to mentor,
we
and it
have,
can't be all push. It has to be give and take as well.
like we have tag weekend coming out this weekend, and there's 2 that we have to watch. And these people are probably stealing my boxes.
No,
They got suspended and they're walking back, and you know what?
Are they locked?
Hmm?
Are they locked?
They
No,
take
it's all that
checks.
day.
We have the boxes,
Yeah.
and they're constantly taped, like, they're taped.
We were lucky
And they're
enough to
taking it
have
right
a
up.
father of one of our cadets make us wooden tagging boxes. And they actually have a latch and a lock. So the kids can't get into them.
When our kids go tagging, there's a parent with them. There's like, if we have 2 or 3 or 4 at one store as an example, there has to be at least one parent with them. We don't let them be without the parent.
We
And
don't
as soon as
have
our
enough
boxes get full, we.
Senior, do you
We
tag
need
the
to
trouble
line your
ones up
seniors.
with the seniors?
Pretty much.
The
Your
CSM?
officers.
But then we're also getting nowadays, have enough, and then just not gonna get, because they're tired of doing it all, and they're really getting rid of them. It's just,
And I agree with the gentleman at the back. In all corps, there are kids like that. Now, another question would be, does your CO follow through when they say you don't get to go,
No.
but
And that's
the consequence isn't seen?
That's a
we
leadership.
did another thing, our CO had the idea that we provide an incentive to cadets who tag. So we give them raffle tickets. For everybody that tagged, got a raffle ticket. Every $10 they got a raffle ticket. So kids came to this Christmas dinner, some of them had a bunch of raffle tickets, and we raffled off a bunch of prizes.
Yeah, we have prizes for Tag Day, which really gets them out there pushing the tags, I'm telling you. There's one for the top collector, because we number the boxes, so we know who brings in what.
Yeah, we do.
And then there's one for the top section.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Usually, the top collector will get like an iPod. Okay, every kid wants an iPod. Second will get the iPod Nano, but then the top section will get a unit T-shirt, like everybody needs, or something. It changes from year to year, but
Yeah.
that gets them out there. And I'm
Yeah.
telling you, there isn't a woman that's safe going in and out of a grocery store when our guys are
Yeah.
It's dangerous.
A woman.
Oh, yeah, the boys know how to go after the women on Tag Day, because they got the purses full of change. But it's, but the incentives help as well.
Yeah, I think the key is the incentive,
Yeah,
not the negatives, a positive incentive.
yeah,
we tried.
yeah.
We've had kids that have, on a one-day tagging on a Saturday out of Fortino's, come back with over $500.
Yeah.
And they're just, not all of them are like that, but putting good kids in good locations sometimes will help with the success of your tagging as well. Because we all have those kids who, they come back and they have $5 in their tag box after a full day of tagging.
Yeah.
We all have those kids, unfortunately. But like you say, if you can pair them up with a senior that maybe can help mentor them on what this really is all about. And
She got caught last time.
And then you have
question?
About tagging in a different direction.
Yes.
I organize the venues and I find that it's getting harder for the businesses to say yes. And hearing about that they're going to get that money out of the ladies' purses almost scares me a bit because
Well, I don't mean to tackle it, but they have that natural, they really lay on the natural charm.
Okay.
What we
Yeah.
do in our corps is we always send one of the very youngest, cutest,
Yeah.
most innocent looking cadets with a mature cadet and
Yeah.
a parent. And it's those young ones with the eyes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they lay on the
People
charm.
just can't
That's what I'm-
say
yeah.
no. This is a cute kid, you know, this
Yeah.
is. So you have to use what you have.
We have run into the same situation. Canadian Tire says it's store policy, they can't allow us.
Yeah, we're having
Um,
the same issue.
Home Depot's store policy can't allow us.
I just
Staples,
wondered we're not overdoing the tagging thing.
yeah, yeah.
Kind of
And
coding.
we had some issues in the Hamilton area, so we actually had to get together all three elements and come up with a schedule so that we weren't over tagging these locations, because that's what was happening. So we each have a scheduled weekend in the fall and in the spring, and we hope that everyone will abide by their schedule. And it has worked fairly well for the past 2 years. But you're right, it is getting harder and harder, and a lot of the stores are saying, well, make sure that your cadets are not being too aggressive with my customers.
Yeah.
So,
Not just with other corps within the area, you have to consider there's scouts, there's beavers, there's
Yes,
all,
council,
which
hockey.
we have a really good communication
Yes.
level with every little non-poppable organization, and it works well.
Yeah.
And like you said,
And-
you can be over tagging.
we did the same thing when they were doing that schedule. They looked at when is Apple Day that year, when are the veterans selling poppies, when is the Easter seals out, like all those, as you say, all those other community groups as well. And like just trying to find a weekend that works, and then getting the store people to agree with it.
Yeah.
It's a challenge, it
In the
certainly
west
is.
end of Ottawa and Canada, you're competing with girls minor hockey,
Yes, all the
boys minor
sports,
hockey,
yeah.
scouts, the
But at least you guys have a neighborhood. Like for us, we don't have a neighborhood, we're business buildings.
Right.
And we're sitting in the middle of downtown Ottawa.
Right.
We don't have neighborhoods to go and canvas. It's more of a challenge that way for us.
Right.
And then if we go into the other areas, it's like,
stepping on
don't,
somebody.
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a cooperation thing with all of the committees.
We've been approached by other organizations requiring cadets assistance. We have a big bike rally, and don't ask me the name of it, it just happened last year. They approached the cadets to be with adults at like traffic crossings and that, this big bike rally. And the agreement was a little bit of publicity for the cadets and a $500 donation when they were completed. So they went out and worked the day, and we received a $500 donation from the bike club, as well as, of course, the cadets are out there on the side of the road in uniform, and it was really good. The Lions Club, who's not one of our sponsors for the Corps, needed assistance at a thing they were doing at the local arena, and again, they put a $200 donation into the Corps if we would provide them with, I think they wanted 6 cadets to assist with the bake-off they were doing. So there are other avenues other than just like selling things,
Yeah.
and it's, and there's groups out there that are looking for literally some bodies to do it. But again, sometimes it's hard to get the cadets. It has to, the one we had to turn down because we had a camp weekend. So all the cadets were already
Yeah.
booked, so that's another idea as well.
You know, a couple of things, we cleaned up with Oktoberfest
Oh, yes.
in Kitchener. So if you have Oktoberfest venues in your hometowns, you might want to consider seeing if you can help set up or tear down.
Yeah,
We do
that's a
both,
good idea.
and we get paid, whenever their revenue comes in, they take portions of that and out to various communities, like services around the area to help. And also, they've asked us to participate in Police Week
Oh, yes.
with the Waterloo Regional Police. So that's an excellent way of
How does it
getting
work with insurance for occasions like that? Is the league covered?
General,
Yeah.
general.
You have to obviously report to the league, you are related to that you plan.
Well, I think the CO has to submit something for
Yeah.
any type of activity like that, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, anytime there's any event involving cadets, other than a regular parade night, something called a ASR has to be submitted, or RSS, depending which area you're in, has to be submitted to the detachment. Even if there's no support required from them, they still have to authorize it. A copy goes to the league, so they know that you're doing something that day, weekend, whatever, so you're covered by insurance. If something happens when a cadet gets hurt and you're not scheduled to be doing anything that night and there's no backup paperwork, it's going to be a big headache because technically there's no insurance.
And they don't question whether it's a safe activity overly much. I mean, that could always be questioned whether it is a safe activity for cadets if it's not covered by, in the normal cadet activity list.
Basically, if it's not a parade night, some type of, we now have something in COA called MORS, which is just an activity report where if it doesn't require any authorization, we just do it by month as opposed to individual requests for each event. Tag days are one that has to go on an ASR because the tag day protocol sheet has to go along with it that the sponsor committee or support committees have to put with it, saying they've communicated with the other units and there's no conflicts. Just one point I want to make on tagging. Many years ago I was with a small unit up in the middle of nowhere, and I tagged for about 1 year as CO, and I stopped tagging because I could make more money doing other fundraising events than I could tagging. Over one tag weekend, it was a small corps, I think I had about 20 kids at the time, we only pulled in about $110. So I said, you know what, screw this tagging, we don't have to do it if we can make more money somewhere else. So there's nothing saying you have to do 2 tag days a year, as long as that money can be replaced by other ideas. And even though it's a good idea to have cadets work with fundraising, I'd rather have my cadets in the field training than standing around selling tags, because that's where we lose the retention, is when they're out fundraising all the time to do stuff that they actually never get to do. So, think outside the box, different ways of raising funds, and, if you cut back the number of tag days, especially when you're inundated with, 4 or 5 other units, that'll make it a little bit easier the next time you go to get those locations.
Well, some of the units in our area, they even tag, they'll tag Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot for the kids, for the cadets. So, and Friday nights even we find sometimes it's not overly successful.
That's one thing that we do as well. We will actually track the cadet, the location, the boxes, so we know that on a Friday night, that location there, we never get any money.
Yeah.
Or we know that that location's really good, so we're going to make sure we put our cute cadets there.
Yeah.
Because the big burly cadets, they never make any money. The little cute ones make lots of money.
We are quite soon.
One cute one, one burly one.
Yeah. Okay, anyone have any other questions? This is a good opportunity if you've got some sort of a question that you are looking for an answer, and if I don't have it, maybe somebody else in the room does. It doesn't have to be related to fundraising or tagging, any aspect of the support committee role. Yes.
Just add one more fundraising opportunity, which we haven't done yet, but we're going to do this year, so I can report next year.
Okay.
Car wash.
Okay.
Find the location. Anybody tried car wash?
We tried